Great news, eh?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to turn the speed up a bit because I know Dr. Brecht will do that in a fat, wonderful way. There's something unique about him that I've noticed. The older he gets, the more passionate he gets, and the more energetic he is. And I've been wondering about that. Most people slow down. I think, in sincerity, I think the urgency of what we do and how much this matters is really very much a sincere matter for him, and thus his commitment to this is very evident in what he shares with us. So my job is to be very succinct and very quick that we can give him the microphone. So I just want to mention 2 or 3 very brief facts of many that I could mention. He's currently the Director of the Language Policy Initiatives at the University of Maryland. He's a retired Executive Director of CASTLE, the Center for Advanced Language Study. He's a Harvard grad in Slavic Studies and Literature. He's served on the boards of many organizations, leadership, developed many products, done wonderful things, and I think with that, I'll hand the microphone to you.
Password? There's no password.
I'm wearing out my welcome here. I understand that. But I'm going to take one more shot at it. For those of you who've never been here before, you can disregard the next 30 minutes because I am truly nuts. I am absolutely crazy. For those of you who visit us from other cultures, this is an un-American presentation too. But I want you to know that we are looking forward to a celebration next year of this organization. And it is an anniversary, a very important anniversary, and it will happen, and we'll hear more about that. But part of what I want to talk about is supporting that. And I want to show you some things that are happening in this country that are very high level. I do nothing but high level. I just do this, you know, and I do that. But so that this organization will profit from what we're doing, and what we're doing will profit from this organization. So let me look at this, and let me show you. I have for years been here talking, okay? I talk all the time. And I talked about something called Languages for All. I talked about landscape. I talked about collaboration. Enough. No more talk. Okay? What I want to show you is it's actually happening. And this is my favorite phrase. I've used this before here from Shakespeare, which is really wonderful. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken in its flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyages of their life is bound in shallows and miseries. And this is important, on such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. The current, this is a day, and I've said this for years, but I'm going to show you I was right. This is a day when there is a tide rising. It is true that the tide in the ocean rises far out, and you can hardly see it. The closer it gets, the more obvious it gets, and finally it crashes, and that's what we're going to do next year, okay? And that's what we're going to do next year. I've talked about this. I'm going to mention just a few things that are happening that we want to be related to, because this conference is about collaboration and internationalization. We have just started a new organization called Partners for Languages in the United States. This organization of approximately 40 language programs across the country have come together and say, we will now set standards, we will test against those standards, and we will certify each other, and we will accredit each other as being language programs who announce what our goals are to our students. And we'll test those against those goals and tell you how we're doing. And we will help each other get better at what we do. The accreditation is not to make a star. The accreditation is to help each other get better. That's called plus. And this is, as I've just said, it is really a remarkable organization. We need all of your organizations and your programs to consider this, and I'll tell you where to find it. There is another initiative I've talked about for years here. It was called Pasaglasa before. It's now called Landscape. It is an on-the-web map of the world where you click anywhere in the world and see what languages are spoken there, and then you click down and you see what resources, expertise, technologies are available to use those languages, to learn those languages, and to teach those languages. I've said this for 3 years. Finally, it is now up on the web, www.landscape.umd.edu is actually happening, and we want the organizations in this organization of the National Council to be members and to take a role in Landscape. We've already talked to Antonia, and this is going forward. But I want to mention those two things because those are very important efforts that will help build less commonly taught language organizations in this country. And the less commonly taught organizations in this country will help build our language effort. I just mentioned those very quickly. The information you will see, and you can get these on, will all be made available. I want to talk about something else, though, because it is the first time that I believe we're ready to make a statement in this country that has not been made before. We call it the Language Enterprise Initiative. This is an initiative that basically recognizes that there is something going on in this country, and we are tired of waiting for the federal government to lead us to the promised land. They are not going to lead us anywhere. We are going to lead ourselves. And this is what this is about. This is a group of organizations that this organization and yours will join, I hope, that says we are ready now to do things we have never been ready to do. We are going to do it ourselves, and you, the federal government, and you, all you funders, if you want to get on board with us, you're welcome. But don't come to us and tell us what you think we ought to do and how we ought to do it. Because frankly, we're doing it better than you could ever imagine. It is a time for us to take control of our own destinies. And I will show you how we're going to do that. We wrote a paper. We held an event last year. We wrote a paper called Languages for All. And this was an interesting kind of exercise because it was based on the simple premise. Is the fact that Americans ignore language, they won't pay for it, they won't put the programs up and so on, is it because they don't think it's important or they don't think we can do it? They think we're not good enough, they think it's too hard, and so on. So we wrote a paper that basically challenged this premise and said, is language now a commodity that everyone can use? What makes a good commodity? A commodity is something that is good enough that people want to use it. It is necessary that people want to use it, like bread, like automobiles. It is cheap enough that you can actually pay for it, and buy time and effort, and it's accessible all over the place universally. That's what makes a commodity, and our argument in this paper was to test the fact, are we good enough now? Is it cheap enough now in labor and every other way? And is it accessible enough now? The proposition of the paper was, yes, it is. It's good enough, it's cheap enough, it's accessible, it's a new time, we can do this. And the evidence, and we didn't say, it's not advocacy. It was based on evidence. Is there evidence now that it's better than it used to be? And the evidence, we looked at best practice in K-12, we looked at best practice in less commonly taught language higher education, and we have incredibly good best practice. And we showed that in evidence. Is it really good enough and available? We looked at science. The science in cognition is off the chart, showing the cognitive advantages of bilingualism. We can teach according to cognition now, where we've never, and science is showing us that now, right? And we looked at technology. You want to know whether it's available? My goodness. You can learn language tomorrow, today. Just go on your iPad and you can start learning languages while you're ignoring me, right? The only problem is, it's like drinking garbage from a fire hose. You can get more than you could ever get, but until it's mentored, but it is available, any place, anytime, anywhere, okay? And so we looked at this, and we presented this evidence. Then we held an international forum. At this international forum, last September the 30th, we invited as many managers, policymakers as we could, because we wanted them to tell us whether this evidence that we presented in the white paper was persuasive enough to change their minds about whether they would support language, whether they would put money into it, whether they would add programs and so on, and whether they would do legislation. So we asked the managers and the policymakers and the government people to come and tear that paper apart and say the evidence is not good enough, or it is. Okay? And so what was their answer? After a full day, and by the way, and you can watch the whole thing, it was all recorded, and at the end I show you where it is. You can listen to them and watch the whole thing. Here was their answer. Is language available for every American? Is it available? It's not that every American has to study language, but can everybody in this country, and I use the term American very loosely, American for me means someone who lives in America. Is it available? Is it cheap enough? Is it good enough? Their answer, not yet, but it's within reach. If we can find common ground now to take this evidence, gather more, and take this initiative, if we can find common ground, and that common ground is what we're establishing, and we call it the Language Enterprise Initiative. It is where the language enterprise means academic and education. It means government. It means industry, private sector. It means heritage communities. And it means all the overseas organizations like the Korea Foundation, Japan Foundation, Alliance Française, Goethe, everything that helps us. Okay? And that's the language enterprise. The 5 sectors, for the first time, working together, bottom up, to show that we're good enough, we're cheap enough, and we're absolutely available universally. And we're going to do this. It's called the Language Enterprise Initiative. Okay? And they said, this can happen. These managers and so on said, it can happen if science and technology and best practice is actually pursued and disseminated. We got to get that science out there. The science is off the charts, very interesting. The technologies, you all know it, but we have to organize it and demonstrate its best use. And we have to take our best practice and get it around. The second condition is we need unified action from all the sectors. Academia should not be doing this itself. Industry uses our product. They should be paying us for those products. They should be supporting us. Government, ditto. And heritage communities can help us with so many resources that they have and so many things that we can help them with. And the overseas sectors, I'll show you, are also playing. And we have to integrate this grassroots, bottom-up, total, comprehensive language initiative with government to understand they can come along and support us. They can support us, but they're not going to lead us anymore. We launched this enterprise. We have a coordinating committee. We'll mention who they are. We have a headquarters. We have a vetting process now, part of what I'm doing. We want to get everybody to understand what we're doing so they join us, so it doesn't look like a bunch of nuts like myself are doing this. We have a broad coalition, and I'll show you how we're going to launch this in London in June. And we're looking now for funding. We don't have the funding yet because everybody is putting in their own money. The organizations are contributing their own sweat equity and their resources because that's the way we're going to start. Once we put in our sweat equity and we value it, then we take it and say, why don't you match it now? We're not asking you for money. We're asking you to match what we already do and how we do it. This is the organizing committee. The American Council for International Education, ACTL, the Center for Applied Linguistics, the Defense Language Institute representing government, the Foundation, the Globalization and Localization Association representing the language providers and the businesses that use those services representing approximately $15 billion worth of economic support in this country right at this moment, the Joint National Committee for Languages, the National Humanities Alliance, which is an alliance of every humanities organization in this United States, NEH, and on down, and the University of Maryland, where we started this. This is the organizing committee. It's not the people who are doing it. They're the people who are helping pull it together, but you recognize these are some of the leading organizations in this country committed to a common vision. We have a vision. I wish I could show it to you. It looks like a pyramid. And the pyramid is cut in half. And the lower half says half of the students in our country have to learn about language and international relations, working with humanities, social sciences, and so on. Then that top half of those should be able to use a language for travel, for working at McDonald's or something like that. Then half of that next 25% should be professionals who are attorneys, who are doctors, and who are professionals in business, who really do have great language at the highest professional level. And then half of that 12 are just the experts like you who make all of this possible. It is a vision that says we're not going to do all of this all at once, but we're going to make, within 10 years, every American aware of what we are and what language in global perspective is. Then we're going to get at least 25% of students in our society to actually be able to use the language. And then we're going to have 12%, half of those, more, who are actually going to be proficient, professionally proficient in the language. And then our graduate students, our experts, are going to copy. We have a common vision. We have a common message. The message is, what's the value added for our country, and what's the value added for every individual? It's not only global understanding and being a participant in a diverse society. It's jobs, too, by the way, and we're documenting that. So we have a global vision. We have a common vision. We have a common message, and we have an action plan. It's 10 years. 10 years. The first 5 years proving we can do it. And the next 5 years actually getting it done. In our first year, we're organizing and vetting the concept. We're establishing baseline and metrics. So we'll know whether we're making any difference. We don't want to blow smoke. You may not all understand that, but we don't want to just talk anymore. We want evidence that we're making a difference. And so we're establishing baselines. And we're joining ACTL's public relations campaign, which is launching right now. This is all based, what we're talking about, what I'm talking about now, and then listen because I'll make the final pitch to you at the end. Here are the assumptions. The leadership is from education in the private sector. Notice it doesn't say from government. It's from education with the private sector. There are more jobs now unfilled needing language in this country and around the world than can possibly be filled by any of us. And right now, all the nations in the world who are giving English They can, and so now in Beijing, they all learn English so they can practice business in China, Korea, Japan, and in the United States and in the UK. What can we do? We can practice business in the United States and the UK. Well, that's not going to happen. These jobs are desperate. We have a real market now to tell parents about jobs. We need support from the major stakeholders, and that's why I'm here and talking to you and all those organizations I talked about. Are you ready to put in your sweat equity? Are you ready, instead of having each tub on its own bottom, each person, each organization with its own rice bowl? How many metaphors do I have to mix? How many? Are you willing to say what we're doing is part of this? What we want to do is part of this. And this part of this is we'll do together. We'll design together. We're going to do it because we're tired of other people doing it for us. We're tired of asking other people to do it for us. We're ready. We're able to do it ourselves if we do it together. But we want business with us because they owe us. And they have to give us the support we need. Finally, and we're not trying to change the federal government. We will attack the state, local, municipal levels. That's where the action is, and that's what we're doing. And our first target is to get the states who actually have language initiatives to join us and show us how, and show the other states how they do that. We're working at the state and local and municipal level. And finally, we're not asking now for more money. Not now. We need to take all the investment we've all put in and share it, socialize that investment, so everyone who sees us can see we're maximizing what we have, what we've got, because we're coming back to ask you for more. But we'll show you first how we did and what we are doing now. I'm ending, believe it or not. I want to give you an example of this collaboration. We started this, and then we went to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in Cambridge. It's the Academy of Sciences in the United States that's responsible for the humanities and behavioral social science. It's not the Washington, D.C. academies who only care basically about science, in their terms, technology, math, and engineering. This is the humanities, behavioral and social sciences. We asked the British Academy, who have a major investment in language now called Lost for Words, because the British Academy, the Brits, the UK is as bad off as we are, and as bad off as the Australian Academy, who is joining us too. This is a coalition of devoutly English-speaking countries deciding that they've had enough of everyone telling them that English is enough. And we have the academies in each of these countries saying, time to step up. So we're having an event in London. This event is to unify this academy effort. It has three efforts. One is an effort on soft power to get people to understand that what technology does and publicity does and arts and entertainment, this has so deep cultural basis that we have to understand that. And it's so riven with language requirements on both sides. And that's going to be headed by Carl Eichenberry, who is the ambassador to Afghanistan, a brigadier general, and a major player in American Academy of Arts and Sciences, their commission called the Heart of the Matter, their new report on humanities and language. We're going to do one, of course, on language policy in Anglophone countries, and this is to get a unification to say, what have the Australians done? What have the Brits done? What have the US done in language policy that worked and didn't work? And how are our approaches different? And what can we do to do something together? And finally, which is also important, if you remember my visualization of this pyramid, that bottom, we're joining with the humanities and the social sciences to say there is no humanity. Think of all the humanities in history and philosophy and religion. Think of any of those where you don't deal with the whole world, where it's impossible, except for American history, and of course American history is riveted with everyone and what we do. So everything has to do, all the humanities have at its heart globalization, global aspects, and language. And so joining them And so they're going to have this major thing where we're joining languages, humanities, and STEM. Because basically STEM is totally dependent on language. There's no technology or engineering now that is not global. And you cannot program, Microsoft cannot support its 104th language without a programmer who knows at least at the intermediate level something about the language in which that is going to support. And so, and we have the National, NEH, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National Humanities Alliance, all these people ready to go to launch this in London. So, what is all of this about? All right. We have a celebration coming up. In my view, the less commonly taught languages, in spite of the incredible effort of people in this room, and, you know, and I bow to Antonia, and I bow to he made that up. I don't believe that for a minute. And to my colleagues here, all of you, we haven't yet turned the corner yet, but we're getting close. I really believe that. And this anniversary celebration is our time to make a very large impression on people in this country by joining. I want us, the less commonly taught languages, to join these efforts that I've just described. But in this case, these efforts will support the less commonly taught languages in this very large anniversary splash. Okay? That's what my intention is, and I'm hoping that's what our intention is, and I'm hoping we can do that. And we pledge all the support we can because we're on the cusp. We're not done yet. We're not there yet. We are better than we've ever been. We teach, and our students learn better than they've ever learned. We have technologies and science that we've never had before. We have, you know, and it is ubiquitous. And the costs are so down. We're not building language labs anymore and things like that. And the cost and time. We can improve the way people learn faster and so on. We can do all of that now. They just don't know it. Because every one of those old people, all due respect, remember language the way they were taught, not the way our students are now learning. And they're going to turn, that's what we have to change, okay? And for your information, here are some of the white papers available on that, you'll get it, and the form, the videos available there, and the final report laying out the language enterprise is available on all the sites of those members that I talked to you about, including NCOLCTL and so on. We need us to join this effort because we are really close, but less commonly taught languages deserve to be in the leadership position, not following the way, and we are better than everybody else. And I'm sorry for all of you who don't have a Mr. Putin to revive your language efforts, but those of us in Russian are very grateful to Mr. Putin, you can imagine. I welcome you to this conference. I love these people who do it all, and thank you for inviting me back again, and I know when I get booted out, this will be my last time. Thank you.